Welcome back to the Deadology Podcast from Pencil Hill Studio, New Paltz, New York. I'm your host, Howard Weiner. And you may have noticed a different musical introduction to the podcast today. That's because it's February, and February is Jerry Garcia Band month. We're going to be delving and diving into Jerry Garcia Band shows throughout the month to celebrate the great music of that band, and with Merle Saunders, Melvin Seals, John Kahn, all the way through. So it's going to be an exciting month here on the podcast. Today's February 5th, 2024, and tomorrow will be the 52nd anniversary of the Pacific High Studio Show in San Francisco from 1972. One of the greatest shows ever, undoubtedly, by Jerry Garcia. And also, besides listening to audio highlights and going through the show, we also got an interview with one of Jerry's former keyboardists. He was there for the Garcia Band in 79 and 1980, Ozzie Ahlers. I did an interview with him a few years back, and throughout the month we're going to play different parts of the interview. I think you're going to like what you're going to hear today. Ozzie talking about Jerry, his reflections on Jerry. He loved the guy, as everybody did. So we'll get to that after we go through the Pacific High studio tape. Talking about it as a tape, it was the first Jerry Garcia show I ever got on cassette tape. Man, I was blessed when among my first shows I had Englishtown 77, Cornell 77, Red Rocks 78, Buffalo 77, some great Phil Maurice shows. And this was the first Jerry tape I got. I think it was my first dozen, and that first box of Maxells I had. And wow, never got a better one after this. In my book, Positively Garcia, I ranked this as the best show ever from the Jerry Garcia Band format. Before we get into that show, let's take a look at a brief history of Pacific High, some of the cool things that happened in that studio. When Garcia showed up on April 6, 1972, he was very familiar with the studio because he had spent a lot of time with the Grateful Dead in there as they were recording Eo Maxoa. I think I said it right. It's the Grateful Dead's third album, an album I love. I still don't know if I'm pronouncing the title right, but you know what I'm talking about. So they spent a lot of time in the Pacific High studio recording that, and they re-recorded it in San Mateo. It was also called Pacific Recording Studio. So Jerry was familiar with the studio, and a couple of great pieces besides this show. There's two other amazing pieces of musical history that took place in there. On September 11th, 1971, Van Morrison performed the show for a small audience in the studio. And I've heard a lot of Van Morrison bootlegs of different concerts. This is the best one. September 11th, 1971. He does a cover of Dylan's Just Like a Woman, and he just come out with Tupelo Honey. Those were all new songs at the time, and just everything that night is unbelievable. So this studio has magic. And probably even bigger than that, one of the greatest albums of all time was recorded in the studio, Sly and the Family Stone, Stand. I would rank that in my top 50 albums of all time for sure. So obviously you got the great title track, I Want to Take You Higher, Everyday People, You Can Make It If You Try, and there's an intense instrumental, Sex Machine, like a nice 11-minute instrumental. And the one Jerry Garcia Band connection with Sly and the Family Stone. Gregorico, the drummer for Sly, would go on to play with Jerry Garcia Band for a year or two. I think it was around 1983 he played with the Jerry Garcia Band. All the great San Francisco musicians of the time. And to jump into the show on February 6, 1972, I was looking at my book, Positively Garcia, Reflections of the JGB, and I read the first paragraph or two, and I was like, I thought it was a pretty cool description. Not to pat myself on the shoulder for it, but I think I'm just going to read right from the book just to describe. The awesome opening track of this Pacific High show, which also was the musical intro which I used for the podcast segment here. Here we go. As Garcia, Saunders, Kahn, and Kreutzmann launch into It Takes a Lot to Laugh, It Takes a Train to Cry, time is suspended by the hypnotic groove. It's a Dylan tune, yet there are no lyrics to ponder. The repetitive riff is sublime, Frisco blues, as mysterious and vast as the Pacific, yet heavenly and cool in the style of Miles. Garcia's snapping strings sing a lonely lullaby, poetry in motion. The drummer and bassist are locked in tight, and the beat bounces brightly as the earthy vibrations of the Hammond organ swirl in and out and all around. Oral ecstasy. This blues riff will never sound this good again, and the musicians know it. There's a song to be sung somewhere down the line, but the band proceeds deliberately, intent on basking in the moment. A modest studio gathering and a privileged West Coast FM radio audience are listening in on this intimate musical conversation. Out of the mesmerizing groove, a mellifluous voice suddenly whispers, KSAN in San Francisco. Ordinarily, this type of interruption would defile a masterpiece like a scar on the Mona Lisa, but the lady DJ sounds sultry, and it seamlessly intertwines with the music as if it were preordained. And if ever a radio station deserved to beat their chest, KSAN deserved props for broadcasting this jam from Pacific High Studios on 60 Brady Street in San Francisco. The musicians in the studio couldn't hear the radio call letters, but Garcia seemingly spurred on as if he could hear the DJ's titillating tones. With each round, his leads become more pronounced and provocative. Garcia's obviously an inspired man, possibly possessed. All right, you get the point. A pretty amazing intro to It Takes a Lot to Laugh, It Takes a Train to Cry. Jerry proceeds to sing the verse, which isn't Dylan's first verse. He only did 2 verses on this night, mixed up the order, but the singing's beautiful regardless. This is the second time Garcia attempted this song, and down the road he would play more perfect versions where he got all the verses right and there were longer instrumental solos in between the verses. But there's just something about the way this one starts off, man. It's so hypnotic. It captures, just the beauty of Dylan's song in Garcia's unique way, and perfectly sets the tone for the music to come on this night. So we got a great opening, and then there's some tuning going on in the studio, and then Garcia jokes with somebody. He hollers out, "Everything's going to be all right," and right on that, as if it were the count off of the song, they jump into "Expressway to Your Heart." A song written by Gamble and Huff, the famous songwriting team, and it was a hit song by the Soul Survivors, "Expressway to Your Heart." And just to tell it like it is right away, this may be the best instrumental Garcia ever did in his career. If somebody said to me, "Hey, what's the best instrumental Jerry ever played in his life?" my first thought would be this "Expressway" from Pacific High Studio. It's that amazing, and there's 2 other insane instrumentals with no words on this night. And even if I think of Grateful Dead performances, like you got some Clementine, and so there are some cool instrumentals that the Grateful Dead did. I don't know if anything is more perfect than this. And what is it about this night that made these great songs just come alive? Well, I think it's the first time that Garcia found himself in a band outside the Grateful Dead where he was like, yes, this is it. Obviously, he had the "this is it" moment with the Grateful Dead, and he's been playing with them for 7 years at this point. But his little experiment with Merle Saunders, obviously those 2 guys hit it off, and John Kahn also. Those, just like when those guys found each other, they were like, this is it. We are musical brothers. And it's so rare that can happen while you're in a band. Like if you think about the Rolling Stones or the Beatles as they're coming along, it's not like Jagger or Paul McCartney got to go join another band and have the best time of his life, and it didn't threaten the Beatles or the Rolling Stones. Here, Garcia was able to find a couple of musical soulmates, and they just knew they had it going on. And it was a San Francisco group, and it wasn't any threat to the Grateful Dead. So it was like Garcia was able to join a new band, and on this night, it's just like the confirmation that everything about these guys playing together is just perfect. So we got Saunders and Kahn and Billy Kreutzmann's on drums, which I even think adds to the magic here. A lot of these shows had Bill Vitt as the drummer around this time, but I think Kreutzmann was definitely the best fit. This four-man band, it doesn't get better than this anywhere in the musical world, to be honest about it. But so this Expressway, it takes off. It's got the right feel to it, just the right groove. It's so good, man. It totally celebrates the song by the Soul Survivors. But yet they're not going to sing it because all they're interested in is the groove, jamming. And one of the things that keeps this interesting, it's 12 minutes long. The song is a series of rolling peaks. At no point do you ever lose interest, or the band isn't driving it forward in the right fashion. It's an incredible thing. They did a bunch of Expressways in 72, 73, 74 in that time period. But this one definitely sticks out. But you use the word tight. This is tight, but yet it's in peak form all the way through. Really an incredible instrumental to listen to. I put this, and also the It Takes a Lot to Laugh, It Takes a Train to Cry. I put versions of this on the Deadology podcast if you want to hear the whole things. Right now I'm just playing some snippets for you, portions of it. But yeah, definitely worth checking these out. I know the Garcia stuff is not as easy to access or find as the Grateful Dead stuff, so you can either find it on my YouTube Positively Garcia page or the Deadology podcast. I posted them this morning. But here's a little snippet. We're about, as you listen to this, we're about 9-10 minutes into the Expressway, and Garcia's just taking it up notch after notch. Just an incredible work here by they didn't call it the Jerry Garcia Band at the time. I think it was just Jerry Garcia, Merle Saunders. That's how it was announced or billed. That's the word I was looking for. How it was billed at the time. But here you go, a little Expressway from Pacific High Studio Crew. Wow, a whole lot of soul and blues for you there on the first two songs. I can only imagine what it must have been like to be in a studio with those guys on that night, that lucky audience, man, in Pacific High Studio. And a characteristic of any great show, one that you look at as a best ever, is the way the songs line up. And on this night, just the song selection is impeccable. The different songwriters they go to. Obviously, Jerry had one of the best in the world with Robert Hunter, Probably nobody at this point was even close to Dylan except for Hunter. But yeah, so this is his little break from the Grateful Dead. He's just going to play all the songs that he loves. And Garcia definitely took a liking to Jesse Winchester, his first album. And Garcia would cover 3 songs by him. That's a Touch I Like, Biloxi, and Every Word You Say. On this night, with the third song, Garcia breaks into That's a Touch I Like. Now Jerry sang it. That's a Touch I Like, because at the time it was a misprint on Winchester's album. It said That's the Touch I Like. When they reissued it many years later, the correct title is That's a Touch I Like. But regardless of that little thing, Garcia liked That's the Touch I Like, and that's the way he sang it. But just after that Expressway, this joyful Jesse Winchester song, which probably the audience had no idea what it was. When you hear Garcia singing this and the joy in his voice, red ribbons in her hair, I'm kind of glad that you put it there. That's the touch I like. It's such a delightful song that I can't even talk about how great, like just how exciting and fun this song is. So I never got to see it in my days. I started seeing Dead and Garcia Band '81. Jerry dropped this from the rotation. I'm not sure why. It would have been like such a great, instead of How Sweet It Is on occasion, that's a touch I like. This song has it, man. It just has all the pop and excitement. And you're gonna listen to this. You're gonna love this. I'm not sure if I haven't uploaded this. If I don't have it on my YouTube page, that's my next project. I think I'll do that tonight. Upload this. Such a great song. It's incredible. And then so we're 3 songs in, and it's the most succulent tape to listen to. It's crazy. So the 4th song is the first original song we get from this band. It's a Merle Saunders song, which is going to be on his upcoming album, Save Mother Earth. His upcoming album would be Heavy Turbulence. Very cool song. Obviously, it's going to be funky. Merle wrote it, and Garcia gets from the funky groove. Garcia, for the first, maybe the only time during the show, takes it into almost like Grateful Dead territory with like spacey, almost Dark Star-like jamming towards the end of it. But a very, very cool tune, man. Just and one of the great things about this tape, this is the last time they played Save Mother Earth. And so you only have a couple of occasions where you could hear it on. This is the 3rd version. Only those 3 tapes where you could hear Garcia and Merle playing it. Besides the Heavy Turbulence, but they do this incredibly on this night. And this is another instrumental. You got Save Mother Earth going into Imagine, kind of like unusual also for Garcia to do a segue, but they do a segue into, at least with the Garcia Band. They do a segue into John Lennon's Imagine, which had just recently come out and obviously was a huge hit. And I think they really captured the beauty of the song here. There's no singing; it's an instrumental, and part of what makes Imagine work is the lyrics almost have more power because the music behind it is so great. Just the feel of the music kind of drives Imagine, at least from my standpoint. You look at you take the words away from the song, you put Imagine on a piece of paper. It's not that mind-boggling, But when you hear the emotion of the music and Lennon's voice, that's where the magic happens, and that's what Garcia focused on, man. Just Save Mother Earth into Imagine, and the songs paired up so nicely. And like I was talking about how a great performance, what makes a great performance, it's lining those songs up right. But putting Save Mother Earth and Imagine together, just incredible. Like thematically, it's a perfect pairing, as was doing Takes a Train to Laugh and Expressway, songs of motion and soul and blues, and that type of pairing continues as the show goes on here. So those 5 songs, if you had a cassette tape back in the day, that made up the first side of the tape. So also the way this was presented and recorded, it was a perfect 90-minute tape. Those 5 songs, and then you flip it over, side B, and side B is another perfect grouping of songs. And that starts off with "That's All Right, Mama," a little tribute to Elvis. Obviously, this Rolling Stones magazine called this the first rock and roll song, Elvis's version of "That's All Right, Mama." And Jerry, loved Elvis, and I'm sure Merle did too, and Con. They kicked out an intense version here, like four solos. Just this it was the first song of the night that had that real straightforward rock and roll feel. Great version of "That's All Right, Mama," and Jerry kept it in the rotation on and off throughout the next decade or two. "That's All Right, Mama," great tune, great presentation here by the band, and they follow that up with a song which has been labeled as "Who's Loving You Tonight," but it's actually, once again, this works with the theme. The actual name of the song is "That's All Right." It's a Jimmie Rodgers song. So the song starts off, KSAN kind of missed the beginning of it. It starts off right in a Smoking Garcia jam, and this is just such a great grinding blues song. Too bad we didn't get the whole thing, but there's enough here to see that they kept the momentum going. Great version, "That's All Right," Jimmie Rodgers. And then another just huge moment in this show. Garcia plays his second time playing "When I Paint My Masterpiece," pretty much a new song from Dylan that the band covered. And now obviously Weir played "Masterpiece" down the road, and Garcia did tons of masterpieces. When Dylan came out with this song, anyone listening, it's obvious the song is packed with some of the greatest imagery and greatest songwriting you'll ever hear in any song. But the way Dylan sometimes performs these, it goes by too quickly. It's just like one thing after another, and you almost can't take in the magnitude of how great his lyrics are. With Jerry playing it, you have no problem because he savors every lyric. The way he sings this is just incredible. You just hear the amazement in his voice. He's saying, "Look at how great this line is. All the hours I spent in the Coliseum, dodging lines and wasting time." And Jerry's just singing it, just like with awe. Like you could tell as he's singing this, he's telling you how did the genius of Bob Dylan, man, this is incredible. There's just so many great lines and masterpiece, and I think that's why Weir wanted to sing it in the late 80s. He was doing all the Dylan songs at that point for the Grateful Dead, but just it's one of those songs where just every line is like, this is why Dylan is the greatest songwriter ever. And also the guitar jams. We get two nice jams, and that gives the listener additional time to kind of soak in how great of a song Dylan wrote is. And Garcia does a total justice here, from the singing to the guitar solos there, and the band's with him 1,000%. This is the type of stuff Con wants to play, Merle wants to play. Of course, Billy Kreutzmann is all in. So just "When I Paint My Masterpiece," the second version, and there'll be many more to come at Jerry Garcia Band shows, and then we're doing it at Grateful Dead shows. Definitely a keeper. Only the second version of "Masterpiece," and for a second version, Jerry really nailed that one. And then just almost like actually, before I go on to the next song, let's hear a little bit of that "When I Paint My Masterpiece." You gotta love that, man. When I paint my masterpiece, and you could just hear it in Jerry's voice on this night, man. He's like, look at how crazy and fucking brilliant Dylan is. Listen to this song he wrote, man, and you could just take it, line by line. An incredible tune. Jerry does it justice, second version, and from one brilliant songwriter to the next brilliant songwriter. I'm thinking this one may have been introduced to the band by Merle. I'm sure Jerry obviously knew the tune, but we get a little Stevie Wonder. Merle was a huge Stevie Wonder guy. I Was Made to Love Her. And this is, I'm talking about the pairings on this night, just how things lined up. On the second song of the show, you got Expressway, and this kind of mirrors almost Expressway on the other side of the tape. It's an instrumental Stevie Wonder's song. Once again, they're just digging the groove, playing it funky, and this is also one of the greatest instrumentals I ever heard from Jerry Garcia. It's right up there with Expressway. If someone says, what's the best instrumentals you heard with no singing, definitely Expressway 1, this 2. And also the Merle song earlier on, Save Mother Earth into Imagine. That's another great instrumental, but nothing I would put in the tier of these two. Everything I said about Expressway before, ditto with this. Just a brilliant interpretation of Stevie Wonder's "I Was Made to Love Her," with a series of rolling peaks, just getting hot and probably getting hotter and hotter. There's no off moment to this. It's when I hear other versions of these songs, just that there was something about this night, whether it be Kreutzmann's drumming or just the excitement, like, hey, we're just like this, knowing that they are a great band and they're on top of the world and they're in the right place at the right time, whatever it was. This night just produced the most incredible music you ever want to hear. So they did a masterful job of Stevie Wonder's "I Was Made to Love Her." And moving right along, another great songwriter, Doc Pomus, and back to the blues. From funk to blues to soul. A show unlike the Grateful Dead were obviously doing at the time. Garcia had found his other element, the kind of what was missing from his musical life with the Jerry Garcia project here. And Doc Pomus' song, made famous by Ray Charles, "Lonely Avenue." And Jerry did some really good versions in this time period. Well, one of the things about this Pacific High show, some of these songs, a good portion of them, never had unfortunately never had any life as the Garcia Band went on. So that's what, in a way, makes this show stand out so much. A lot of these songs were captured during the Keystone period, which obviously is a sensational recording. But I don't think Keystone is even on level with this Pacific High. That's how hot they were in this night, and Keystone is "We're Not Worthy" kind of stuff. So this is above "We're Not Worthy." So you got the song made famous by Ray Charles, the Doc Pomus song "Lonely Avenue." "My room has got two windows, and the sunshine never comes through." But Jerry sings this like he's one of their brothers. Like he can understand the pain. Both of these guys had childhood pain. Obviously, Ray Charles going blind early in his life. Jerry lost his father in a drowning accident. Had a finger chopped off as a child, so he really went through some traumatic stuff. And it's almost like he's like a brother. He understands where this Lonely Avenue pain comes from. But my God, the singing on this version, I don't know if there's a better Jerry vocal than you'll hear on this "Lonely Avenue," and the jamming, just a crazy. Like, this is the best song of the night. It tops Expressway. It tops "I Was Made to Love Her," and all the other great stuff. This is the exclamation point. There's one more song to go in the show, but this right here, "Lonely Avenue," is the exclamation point. And right now, definitely, let's hear a little bit of as they bring it on home for a "Lonely Avenue." And obviously Garcia's guitar playing is going to stand out, but what blows me away here is just the way John Connor is playing bass. Just incredible, over-the-top, emotional instrumentation. Wow, some outrageous playing there from the band. Everybody's digging in, man. You can just hear Billy and John Kahn digging in with Jerry. Everybody's feeling the blues there. Lonely Avenue, Doc Pomus. And after all this intense music, the last song of the night is How Sweet It Is. And this is it's an awesome version. But after how heavy this show was, all the great versions and the blues and the funk and Dylan and Lennon and Jesse Winchester, after all that, How Sweet It Is almost like playful fodder, even though it's an excellent version, and it would go on to be by far the most played Jerry Garcia Band song throughout the years. How sweet it is to be loved by you. And that wrapped up just an insane 90-minute show. With some of the best Grateful Dead shows, you're talking 3-4 hours. This is 90 minutes, and just 90 of the most satisfying, engaging minutes that you'll ever hear from any musician. So just an awesome night for Jerry Garcia, Merle Saunders, John Kahn, and Billy Kreutzmann, Pacific High Studio. Now it's time for the Ozzie Ahlers interview. And as part of Jerry Week, you guys are going to love this. So a bunch of years ago, I'm working on Positively Garcia. I reached out to Ozzie Ahlers. He told me to mail him the questions, and he'd send me back an audio response, which was a great way of doing it because it gave him a little time to think about the questions. And in coming weeks, I'm going to play more from this interview. But what we're going to hear right now, my question was, what are your lasting reflections of touring with Jerry Garcia? And Ozzie's answer is just, it's incredible, man. Jerry touched us all in so many ways and through his music. But as a person, I think this is such a great testament to who Jerry Garcia was as a person. Here's Ozzie Ahlers.
This is a good part because I can tell you about Jerry as one person, Jerry and Kahn together as another person, working with Rock Scully and having a stand-up guy like that around us. It was all just the way it should be musically as far as I'm concerned. Touring, working with Jerry, and knowing him outside the gig. I mean, he was going through some troubled times when I was in the band. I'd go over and visit with him and John at a house they had in San Rafael, and there was some financial problems and other stuff going on. Jerry was always kind and generous, and no matter what, he split things with people. If you went to a gig, it was his name up on the board, Jerry Garcia Band, not the Ozzie Ahlers Band, not the John Kahn Band. But we'd walk away from that gig, and we'd split it 4 ways. And I will tell you something. I don't know how to say this without... he was so generous that in his will, he left strict... I don't know how to say it, a strict testament that he wanted the money split equally with each band member. So if any projects came out under the JGB name, he would split the proceeds with everyone. And so he, even in his death, he was able to keep that intact, and his family honored it. That's the kind of guy Jerry is. The other side of it is he's a sci-fi nut. He and I had plenty to talk about on the tours. We both loved science fiction. We both really liked Frank Herbert and especially the Isaac Asimov series and a lot of the short stories and Vonnegut and stuff like that. And he wasn't impressed that I'd played with Van, or that I'd my musical endeavors worked in the South with Spooner Oldham and people like that who he really liked. Jerry was an R&B fan. He loved knowing that I worked with the people in Memphis. But what Jerry was most impressed with was that I had met Isaac Asimov, and that was really a big time to him. I told him in passing that I knew a gal in Woodstock. We were friends. Her name was Tandy Sturgeon, and her father was Theodore Sturgeon, the great science fiction writer. And I was invited over to the house for lunch to, I met her dad. He was a very interesting guy, but he had a friend visiting there at the same lunch, and his name was Isaac Asimov. And I actually got a chance to sit and talk and have lunch with one of my idols in the science fiction world, and I think probably everybody's idol. He was sort of the grandfather of science fiction. If it wasn't Jules Verne, it was Isaac Asimov. So Jerry asked me over and over again. He would say, "So, what did he say? What did he eat? I mean, when did he eat salad?" He would ask me questions like that with those squinty eyes of his. He'd every once in a while he'd go, "Man, I still can't believe you met Asimov," and he would just say it in that funny way of Jerry's. Only Jerry had that sense of humor. He and Kahn were almost like the humor twins. They had things that they would love to say to each other, and it always rubbed off on the whole tour and made it kind of a joyous time. So lasting impressions of Jerry: kind, generous, really experimental, really creative, and an enormous sci-fi buff.
Jerry Garcia, a sci-fi buff. Who knew? Great little story there from Ozzie Ahlers, who once again was the Jerry Garcia Band keyboardist, played a synthesizer in late 1979 through most of 1980. It was very cool getting a chance to hear from him. We'll be hearing more from him on future episodes this month of the podcast. And once again, if you want to hear like Lonely Avenue, Expressway, it takes a lot to laugh, A Train to Cry. Those versions are on my YouTube page. I think I also uploaded the masterpiece there. And I'm going to, two of them are on my Deadology Facebook page right now. The Deadology Podcast Facebook page. You could join the group. Because some of this Garcia stuff is tough to find, and really everybody should be. This music's so great; it should be out there. Everybody should have easy access to it. But yeah, we're lucky to have the access we have, man, and I do appreciate that we're able to, have it on YouTube and places like that, because it's so especially this show. The best, man. It's number. I put it number one for a reason. I don't think anybody could knock it out of the top spot. There's no argument for another show that's going to take this one out of the top spot. But the cool thing, there's a lot of great Garcia Band stuff through the years, and we're going to dip into more through February. We got 3 more podcasts that are going to be all Jerry Garcia Band. We might throw some acoustic Jerry in there. So thanks for listening. I'm your host, Howard Weiner. My book, Positively Garcia, Reflections of the JGB, is available on my website, tangleupintunes.com. All my books are up there. Easy access to the podcast, my YouTube page. It's a nice little hub to get to any of these spots, the YouTube or the, if you want to get to Amazon for my books, podcasts are there. So it's an easy little hub to connect to everything. But thanks for listening, and this is going to be a great month. We're going to have some interesting people on, some more Ozzie Ahlers, and a lot more hot Jerry Garcia Band. Peace out.